Hey, New York Jet fans from all around the world. Welcome to Laugh Through the Turbulence, a New York Jets podcast, the show that delivers you all your Jets content. Here are your hosts, John, Adden, and Monty. All the best to the New York Jet fans. J-E-T-S, Jets, 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 go Jets.
Go Jets. Yes.
Yeah.
How's it going, everyone? I'm still in the basement.
One game in. Let's go.
One game in. Lonnie and Adnan, you guys doing good?
Yeah, man. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Almost killed a guy on the golf course today because he was hitting into me, but I will save that for another story. There'll be a new podcast for that. John's Tales of Golf. I almost had my last name there. But before we talk about the game that happened, I think we're going to talk about the thing that actually made way bigger news.
Oh, yeah.
It's the Haason Reddick standoff. Yeah, this stuff is not exciting stuff, but basically we're going to kind of just go through a little bit of everything here that happened. So first is first, right? I don't think Ian Rappaport was the first to report it, but basically the request was that, Haason Reddick said he's requesting a trade from the Jets, right? That news came out. Then immediately after, the Jets posted this, like about 30 minutes after, they were just ready to go, right? They were like, we have informed Haason that we will not trade him, that he's expected to be here with his teammates, and he will continue to be fined per the CBA if he does not report. Since the trade discussions back in March, we had been clear, direct, and consistent with our position. Our focus will remain on the guys we have here, and we will prepare for the regular season. And then just to clear it up, because everyone has a hot take on this because it's the Jets and, the media is, savage when it comes like that. We have the Connor Hughes evaluation on it, which is basically the obvious, like, hey, if you're in Jets Nation and you really follow this team, you know that this is the story. And a lot of people are misinformed and telling a bunch of bullshit. But basically, Connor Hughes, the first overall pick in our draft, basically summed it up best. The Jets were informed by Haason's representation that he would not report and play under his current contract, and it hasn't happened. To let Reddick know they were open to adjusting his current deal, converting the non-guaranteed to guaranteed, but only when he showed up. They will not commit to him until he committed to them. The Jets will not cater to a player who has never played it down for them before. Understandably, considering the message that would send to others in the locker room, like DJ Reed and Michael Carter, who also want a new deal, right? If Reddick wanted to sit out this entire season, he can, but he will be fined each day and game missed. His contract will toll, and the Jets will retain his rights for next year even. So, with that information, basically that's what it is right now. I'm gonna go to the frustrated, infuriated man of the room. It's Adnan, I think. What is this?
Yeah,
he's our Charlie Day. So why don't you kind of give us your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, like I said, it's annoying and it's frustrating, but I'll say it, like I've been, consistent with it. I'm negative in a panic or concern perspective on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm 0 or negative. Frustration, yes, is high. I just don't think, and Connor Hughes has said this multiple times, and I agree 100%. Haason Reddick is a luxury for this team. He is not a necessity, right? This defense, the way it's constructed, can survive without a Haason Reddick. And for one of the main reasons that Connor had stated in the last tweet that you read, John, is he's never played it down for this team. He's never stepped in the locker room, with this team. Additionally, I know that there are a lot of, people who aren't the biggest fans of Robert Saleh. I get it. You're allowed to have your opinion. I happen to feel that he'll be a good coach now that he has a quarterback that he can work with. But regardless of how you feel about Robert Saleh, the one thing about Saleh, Ulbrich, and this defensive staff that is undisputable is that they get their defenses ready to play no matter who is playing, right? Perfect example, the Eagles game last year. Sauce and DJ Reed were out. They played Craig James and Tay Hayes as the starting outside corners still held the Eagles to 14 points and won the game. This staff will have everybody who's here ready to play. And if you look at that defensive line right now, Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen Williams, Javon Kinlaw, Will McDonald are the starters. What do they all have in common? They're all first-round picks. If the staff can do what they did in that Eagles game with two corners that are practice squad third-string types, they can get the most out of that defensive line. So I'm not worried about Reddick. I'm not worried about it. And he really doesn't have a lot of leverage, right? The Jets own his rights next year. If he doesn't show, I believe it's by week 10. So let him sit. Let him accrue the fines. The Jets will be fine without him. And I think due to the monetary issues that he's going to have and the fact that if he drags this out for the season, the Jets will retain his rights next year, I think he'll show at the beginning of the season, end of camp, maybe a couple of games in when he sees that the Jets aren't going to budge. And most likely this will end up the way Revis did, 11th hour before the season starts, they'll get something hammered out. But as a Jet fan, I'm not worried at all about this. The only guys that this team needs to win, which is defined as somebody who, if they lose, the season is over. I think it's Aaron Rodgers, obviously, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and you can put Tyron Smith in there as well. Outside of those guys, I think they can sustain the loss of anyone else on this team. So not worried at all, and I think it'll work itself out. When? Who knows? But the Jets will be fine either way.
Go ahead, Monty. And by the way, I just want to re-echo, too, in that game against the Eagles, Brandon Echols, the dime corner, also didn't play that game because he was injured, too.
Right.
So, the only of the three was Michael Carter.
Yep.
Yeah, the two guys you mentioned, as well as Bryce Hall played that game. Oh, no, was Bryce Hall in that? Yeah, he was in that game.
He was on the
game. Yeah, he was.
I think he did.
Yeah. But go ahead, Monty.
Yeah. So honestly, man, it's just, typical, same old Jets.
Same old
Jets. This is only a situation that happens to the Jets. Look at all the people that have been signed, in the offseason. Their deals get done right at the gate. We offered him a deal. He said no. It's a little naive of Joe Douglas to have pushed forward at that point. Yes, Reddick lied. He straight up was dishonest, and you can't predict that. I get that, but at the same time, like, why is this you can't name another time that this has happened? Like, there's no other time where someone goes in, they demand a deal, they demand a trade because they got the deal, because they didn't get the deal, and then they get sent to another team, and then they demand another trade because that team also wouldn't give them a deal. When a person demands a trade because they want a deal, the other team comes in and gives them a deal. Like, that's it. Like, it shouldn't have gotten to this point, and it's really looks bad on us, and it looks bad on Joe D. Like, listen, Joe D's done a lot of great shit. This is a blunder. This is a blunder that it got to this point. That this happened, that it went to this point. It's a straight up blunder. There's just no way to say it. Now, as far as Reddick being a luxury, I could not disagree more. Could not. Our defense hinges on pressure from the line. We are in blitz rate. We're like 17% 2 years ago, 18% last year. So that was good for fifth and second lowest in the entire league. How do you think we're getting that pressure up front? Yes, some of it is scheme. We're running stunts. We're putting people in the right position, but a lot of that is talent up front getting pressure. And it's not just Quinnen Williams. It's pressure off the edge. Bryce Huff. It's a one gap scheme, 4 down linemen. These guys are bringing the heat. We need good guys, as good of guys as we can get up front. Why were we considering going after Jadeveon Clowney then if we didn't need him? Why even get him if we didn't need him? We could have just kept John Franklin Myers. If he's such a luxury, it's a waste of time to even try to go that route. He's not a luxury. We've got from last year, we had 48 sacks, ninth in the league. Okay. 13 and a half of those came from John Franklin Myers and Huff, who are gone. Okay. Now, let's say both Clemens and McDonald have the best year of their career sack production wise in the same exact year, which, yeah, right. The Jets getting that lucky. Okay. Let's say, all right, they just magic happens. You get 3 out of Clemens, 5 out of, 5 out of Will McDonald. That's still a net loss of 8 sacks, and that drops us all the way down to 20th in the league in sacks if you looked at this year's numbers. All right. Reddick is also a 3-down guy. Franklin Myers played 627 snaps. Huff played.
Guy.
Yep. And then Huff played 480. So now you have, Clemens who played 369 snaps, and you have McDonald who played 184. So both their snap counts need to double, and they need to be super productive and have the best sack producing years ever, the both of them, to even come close to kind of replicating what we would have had if we had just kept, Reddick on the field. Because what's going to happen now is, he has to play because he's, contractually obligated. But if he waits till the last minute, what's that going to look like? He's going to come in. He's not going to know the playbook. He's not going to know his coaches. Mosley was on. I forgot who was interviewing, but Mosley said they haven't even spoken yet. Captain of the defense they have not even said 2 words to each other. So there is a lot there that that doesn't just work itself out in one day. It doesn't just work itself out in the first practice of the year. And Reddick is not a guy who the guy is a game wrecker. All right. The guy is double-digit sacks 4 years in a row. All pro, twice. Pro Bowler. I mean, the guy, look what he did. Look at the highlights. I think I shared in our group chat. Look at the highlights from the NFC Championship game. You need a guy who can perform like that in the playoffs. You need a guy who is going to at least, there's going to be at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 games where it's all on the line. It's tied up, whatever. He comes through with that sack and then busts the door down. And then it's just, all right, now the offense just grinds it out and gets a field goal. That's the type of guy that he is, and our defense hinges on that. You were mentioning before about how we were lower on, we were low on defensive talent, defensive backfield, secondary talent when we played the Eagles. Yeah, because we were getting the right pressure up front. We had Huff then, we had JFM, we had these guys that we can that cycle in and out in waves. That's literally the Jets' defensive way, is that up front, pressure, so that way we don't have to use our linebackers all the time blitzing, and then our linebackers can handle the run. They can handle the mid-range pass. They can stick to the tight end. You start now having to blitz linebackers to make up for the sack loss and make up for the pressure that you're not getting with a guy like Clemens, who is unproven, with a guy like Will McDonald, who is unproven, looks okay, but unproven. And that changes the dynamic of the defense, and who knows what else it screws with. I just think in a Super Bowl run year, if we were at, also another thing to consider, we don't have Aaron Rodgers forever, right? We have maybe, yeah, exactly.
Live forever, dude. He's gonna live forever.
What do we got? What do we probably got? A year, 2 years with him left, maybe
6 years. 6 years.
Who even knows?
4
right?
more years,
right? I wish, but we can't. It's not like we're, the Green Bay who just signed up Jordan Love, locked him in for, for the long term, or we just signed our rookie contract to this long deal and he might be with us for 10 years if we're lucky or whatever. No, we have a very limited shelf life on this team the way it is. We have a bunch of really big contracts that need to get, paid out in the next couple of years. This team is not going to look like this that much longer, right? So we can't be playing around here. This guy has proven production. He's a game wrecker. He's a great defensive player, and he needs to be taken a little more seriously. I'm sick of this. Oh, he's a luxury. He's a luxury. No, he's not a luxury. He's an important piece of this defense. Is he now? All right. So now the other part of that is, what do you mean by luxury? Do you mean we make the playoffs without him? Sure. But this isn't about making the playoffs. It is to save Salah and Joe D's jobs and save their ass, sure. But we didn't put this team together the way we did with the shelf life it has to get playoffs. This is a Super Bowl run team. And I just can't agree that he's not important enough. I think we need to get him and Joe D in the deal. Stop all this posturing bullshit of, oh, we're not going to sign him if he doesn't show up. No, call his ass, figure it out, give him the guarantee, maybe go a little bit above, get him into freaking play. You don't have to give him a deal. I'm sure there's ways to deal with this without giving him a deal, but you may have to come a little bit more out of the pocket, maybe 22, something like that, 23. I don't know, a big number, but not quite necessarily what he wants. And get the deal done, get him in the building, get him practicing, and let's get this team at 100%. And let's get it. Let's take the Super Bowl run seriously. That's my take on it, because I just can't listen to the, oh, he's just a luxury anymore. I think that's just absolute nonsense. We wouldn't have got him if he didn't. We would have just kept John Franklin Myers.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot. Okay, you guys both went on for a really long time. I just want to say that. Okay. All right, look.
Well, it's a big story. It's a big story.
Yeah. And it's not like we've been talking about it for every episode for the last couple episodes, right?
True.
Okay. At this point, I think this may be a blessing in disguise for the long term, not the short term. Short term, are they better with him in the building, learning everything? I mean, although like edge can just be plug and play more than any other position in this league, right? That's definitely the most true thing. It's really, you got to do two things. You got to stop the fucking run, and you got to fucking go after the quarterback and kill him, right? So like, I think that learning curve may be a little bit less. I think it's a lot less than any other position, I think, on the field, right? The one thing I say it's a blessing in disguise is it looks like there's no fucking way he's getting a long-term deal at this point. There's just no fucking way you can do it, right?
Right.
Like, he didn't even show up, right? So, like, you're not getting a long-term deal out of him, right? And you're not going to over fucking pay at this fucking point, right? Because you're setting a bad example for everyone else that wants a fucking deal coming up, and there's a lot of those names that you just mentioned,
right? So no long-term deal, exactly.
Thank you. All right, you talked for like 20 minutes. All right. Yeah. So anyway, like basically, so like in this case, like so now that long-term money that we're looking to use on all those guys like Jermaine, Garrett, Sauce, and then probably Brees too, although I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. ABT, all those deals, like you can take care of them if you don't deal with Haason Reddick, right? You really pretty much, right? At this point, Haason has been on 4 teams in his 8 seasons, and this is his 8th season, right? This looks so much worse for him than it does for anybody fucking else right now, right? I mean, someone's going to overpay for it. And the Jets said they weren't going to trade him. I fucking wouldn't be surprised if they traded him, actually, and they got a fuckload out of it. It's like they do want to trade him, but they're not going to say that publicly at this point, right? They may trade him and get a fucking farm at this point, because there's definitely teams out there with cap space that are very desperate teams for edge presence, right? That, have the money to spill and realize that their jobs are on the line too. Those coaches are just as much in the hot seat, right? Or if they just need a little something. I mean, one example could be actually Atlanta would be a good example, I think, of someone that could use an edge guy that didn't really get that in the draft, right? Because they went with what's his face at quarterback, Michael Penix, right? Instead of getting the top edge guy. So like, I think this could be a blessing in disguise for the long term. Short term though, it could be a problem. But here's the thing. Adnan said it really well. This team develops that position really well. And we could talk about the game that we just had where guys were doing really well. Actually, more so in the interior than on the edge, although we'll talk about Tack in a little bit because he was actually really good. Clemens was pretty decent. Will McDonald graded well, but I didn't see enough. But maybe part of that is because the guy knows he fucking can't get hurt in a fucking preseason game, right? I think it might be a blessing in disguise because like maybe one of those guys really will emerge like it did for us with John Franklin Myers and Bryce Huff. It's very possible the staff is very good at doing that at that position and at cornerback, right? And even linebacker, if you really want to fucking put it, right? Because they developed the shit out of Quincy. Like he was not that when he came here, and he was first team All-Pro last year. I think that it could be a blessing in disguise. I mean, right now the Haason Reddick cap it's $750,000 actually this year because of the way the Eagles structured their deal. So it's like really nothing, right? And the Jets do have cap space to play with somehow. They have $17.8 million of cap space, right? They could just fucking give him like half of that, right? On top. which is added to the 14, so making him like 21 or 22, as you said, right? If that happens for 1 year, and like, you know what, we'll do 1 year, you get this 22 mil, instead of 15 mil or 14 mil, whatever it is, and then we're fucking done with you. You better fucking play, because if you want your next deal to be big, you better fucking play well. And maybe then we'll even fucking consider if you really outgo it, right? But at this point, it doesn't fucking matter. Haason Reddick just shot himself in the foot. So, I mean, am I pissed off about? I'm actually more pissed off about this, I think, than Adnan is. Just because, like, I was like pretty calm about it, and it's still fucking dragging on. And I hate talking about this shit. The same fucking topic the last couple fucking weeks. That's what I'm more pissed off about. That we have a podcast, and then we have to talk about Haason Reddick every fucking week, right? I can't even find good enough memes out there to fucking post this or a thumbnail. So my apologies for not putting a good thumbnail in. But at this point, I'm fucking frustrated with it. And I think it could be a blessing in disguise. And whatever fucking happens, it fucking happens. They're not paying him a long-term deal. That's it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is good. But they shouldn't. I don't think they should. But we did just need to get him in the building. That's what I think.
But I mean, I think
he could have got, if he didn't go to Japan, he'd be in the fucking building, 100%.
Yeah, and I think,
that was so long ago, though.
I think
he could have been in the building.
But I think like the sticking point could be that, I mean, he seems to be dead set on a long-term deal, right? So if the Jets go to him and say, hey, listen, we'll give you $22 million guaranteed to play this year. What if he doesn't want that? What if he wants the security of a long-term deal?
Maybe he shouldn't have done a 3-year $45. Hang on. Maybe he shouldn't have done a 3-year $45 million deal after he went through 2 teams. You know what I mean? He went through 2 teams before he went to the Eagles, and they gave him 3 for $45.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, I don't think he should get it at this point. I don't even think he should ask for it. I think he should work with the Jets, have a great season, and then hit the open market next year and get your big money deal. Right, that's the best scenario for all parties involved.
Yeah,
but if he's going to be dead set on this, then I don't know. What happens?
Yeah, I mean, well, we don't know. We really don't know. That's just like the one thing about this that I will say is the only narrative that we've heard is from the Jet side. Like it's Connor Hughes. It's there's not really.
Well, everyone's talking about it on ESPN.
But more so. But they're also criticizing the Jets, like in terms of like bringing a guy on who wanted a deal and not giving him a deal. But they're not necessarily releasing the details of the deal. They're not saying what he wants right now in this moment. All they're saying is we're not even going to negotiate unless he shows up, which I think at that point, I think this point is just nonsense. I think you call his fucking agent and you just say, look, what does this work? No? Okay, right. Now fuck you.
Okay, well, let me put it this way, right? We have a couple other holdouts going on with other teams right now, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Debo thing is way fucking worse than this, but it's the Jets, so it's up on the radar, right? And the CeeDee Lamb thing is definitely worse, right? Because Cowboys fucking need it. You know what I mean? Like, that's been resolved now, though, right? Kind of, sort of. Is he shown up yet or no? He still hasn't shown up, right?
No, he hasn't shown
up. Yeah, so,
like,
those 2 situations are worse. Debo, because that's a homegrown talent, right? And CeeDee, because that's a homegrown talent, right? But, no, it's the Jets.
Yeah, Ayuk and Trent Williams, too.
Yeah, and Trent Williams now, too, right? So, like, those situations are way fucking worse, right? For those teams. Debo maybe not as I'm sorry, not Debo, Ayuk. Sorry. Debo was the other one that also had a fucking issue. I said Debo, my apologies. That one's way worse, right? Because Debo is really more gadgety, kind of like Malachi Corley is, which we'll get to in a little second. So but it's the Jets, and and I think Adnan's right. It's not quite a luxury position, but it is still, even without Haason Reddick, it's the D line as a whole is still a position of strength, right? If you put that D-line without Haason Reddick and compare it to like every other fucking unit in the league, maybe you're naming 5 teams that have a better D-line right now without Haason Reddick. Maybe, but you are naming 5, right? But that's it. It's just not the guaranteed number 1, right?
And Monty, I think you had said it right? Like with Reddick, this is a top 3 defense. Without Reddick, right? Without Reddick, top 7 or 8 still. Right,
yeah,
and
like probably like 6, probably like 6.
Exactly.
The team hinges on the offense this year.
That's exactly.
The team's not going to go to the Super Bowl because this team is top 7 versus top 3. It's going to go to the Super Bowl because the offense is going to work.
Because the offense went from 32nd to 13th, right?
Yeah,
like
that's what's going to happen. Yeah,
that's the only way. So I think this is a talking point. And like you said, John, because it's the Jets, it's New York. They're going to kill the Jets. Everyone's going to use this as an opportunity. Oh, the Jets clown show. This is how they're run. They don't know what they're doing. That's fine. It is what it is. I just think, the offense is going to have to pick up the slack, and the defense is still going to be very, 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 very good with or without Reddick.
Right.
So,
And remember, all that young talent, that defense is still going to be better. But speaking of young talent, should we move to the next topic?
let's do it.
It's really the only fucking other topic. It's the Jets beating the Commanders 20-17 in the preseason debut. Basically, Commanders basically started their first string, pretty much the vast majority of their first string guys in the very beginning, especially on offense. They were able to squeak out a touchdown with a nice bomb that Jaden Daniels threw that was in really fucking tight coverage, and I'll get to that in a second. And that guy, but basically, it was a Jarek B or whatever. I fucking forgot his name, the safety, but he's playing fucking.
Yeah, Bernard Converse.
Yeah. Wait, I had it right here. Yeah, Jarek Bernard Converse. Yeah. But anyway, and then like the Jets, with Tyrod, a penalty on a offensive lineman going beyond the line of scrimmage brought it back to a 3rd and long, and it didn't work out. I think Tyrod had did he have another drive or no? He didn't, right? No, that was it. And then I guess the backups came in, and the offense actually looked functional, right? But basically, I don't know. A win's a win, so you take it in the preseason. But the Jets basically didn't try out the best of the best by any means, right? Like pretty much every offensive starter was, besides I guess Tippmann a little bit, right? And I guess Fashanu, right? Who's not really a starter, though we get to that in a second. Kind of, got to showcase a little bit, right? But basically, what do you guys think of the game in general? Like it was a hot one out there, right? So but yeah, what do you guys think? Monty, you go. Fuck it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so always obviously taking it with a grain of salt because it's preseason and it's the Commanders, who are not really expected to be anything special at all.
Still first.
But that being said, it still was a win, and it still was a really good game in a lot of ways. Like for me, I was looking at Adrian Martinez. That was like a great effort by him. Like I think he had like a 96 passer rating, over 100 yards passing without even playing a ton of time, 60% completion rate, and he led the game-winning drive, which is kind of cool. I mean, this guy is coming from the UFL. He was the UFL MVP, but he's still coming from the UFL, which is like a lot of people think that that's kind of like a lower class of talent, whatever. But he looked good, and he bombed a really nice pass to Brandon Smith and just perfectly just put it right in his hands, right over his shoulder, floated it to him. He had to dive a little bit, but it was a nice pass. And it really speaks to like the Aaron Rodgers effect, because I think he was like interviewed after the game, and he said something like he said Aaron Rodgers has had continued to push with me that I need to keep my eyes downfield and be able to give guys opportunities. And what's he do? He does exactly that, and then just beams a 37-yarder downfield to Brandon Smith. So, like, that's really cool. Like, I thought the quarterback play from Peasley, too, between Martinez and Peasley, I think that was a bright spot for once, which is weird to say because the Jets never have good quarterback play. And, to see it coming from, like, the bottom of the roster, I think that's really encouraging. And then obviously the big, 1,000-pound elephant in the room is Braylon Allen. The kid's legit. Didn't really, listen, it's not like he scored or anything like that, but he had a 24-yard run. He was like 9 yards per carry. I don't think he had any runs under 5 yards. Just a big body, violent runner.
Beast, dude.
He's a beast, man. I think he's going to be more important to our like overall offensive,
identity.
production and identity than a lot of people think. He might. It's not like he's going to take away from Brees, but he'll complement Brees so much to like where he might be like, a top, maybe a top 30 running back.
Go ahead, Adnan.
Yeah,
I think kind of high level. He kind of piggybacking on what Monty said about the offense, I think seeing the quarterbacks play well, seeing the offense, as a whole, and I know not the starters. I know that just Titman, Fashanu, and Tyrod played in terms of guys that might be big contributors this year. I understand all of that, but it was nice to see outside of the Newman, going downfield penalty, they were a functional offense. Hackett was still calling the plays. It didn't look disorganized. Guys were getting open, so I think the offense as a whole, looked functional with Hackett calling all of the plays. So I think that was a good thing. I think another thing to take away, not just from the preseason game, but from the joint practices as well. One of the things that we saw a lot about with the joint practices was that the Jets pretty much manhandled the Reds. I always say the Redskins still. The Commanders in kind of every way imaginable. And that's what a really good team does to a young team that doesn't have a lot of talent, right? We should see the same thing this week with joint practices with the Panthers. And I think taking both of those things together really bode well for this Jets team, because if you look at it, their joint practices last year, they couldn't block anybody. They couldn't do anything. So it's night and day between the two. So I think those were really encouraging things to see. I know we're going to talk about specific players in a couple of minutes here, but I think that, overall, it was a really good performance to see, the way that the offense looked, the way the team overall looked in joint practices. And we did see some young defensive guys flash, which was really encouraging as well.
Yeah. I won't go too much into the defense because it was really a lot of guys that are probably like on the border of making the team, right? Which we'll talk about those flashes in a little bit. And then you obviously saw a couple guys that could be getting some significant time in Will McDonald and Michael Clemens in the defense, but that was pretty much it, right, on that side. But the offense, the blocking was probably the most impressive thing, I think, amongst the group, right? It was actually I think they let up it looked like one sack only, right? And it was a Tyrod sack, right? And it was kind of like one of those things where he just kind of tried to run outside the pocket and then he got sacked, right? Because it was collapsing, but he did try to make a run for it to gain some space, right, and all that. Quarterback play was really interesting, and we'll talk about those guys in a second. But Peasley actually impressed me more, and he had the higher, I think, QBR of the two. But Martinez had the more big time throws, right? So actually, if you want to look at the grades, they actually had the same passing grade, 79.9. Tyrod was still 66.8, whatever. But it's funny when I saw those two, and I won't get into them in the next part. But Peasley kind of looked like the way more Aaron Rodgers would run it, and and Martinez looked more like the way I think Tyrod would, with kind of moving outside the pocket and creating some separation and some runs too on that, right? So that just kind of felt like those two styles were kind of on showcase, right? If that made sense. But still, Martinez, his arm is great, when he does show it, right? So that's a plus too, and it's gonna be interesting who's the QB3 in the group. One's gonna make the practice squad though. I don't think anyone's. I don't know. Someone picks them up, if they don't make the 53. But either way, I think you can safely say the QB3 is going to be comfortable, right? Offensive line, though, was the thing I was looking at a lot, and obviously the run game, because it's going to be a run-heavy team, and that's going to be the identity of this team. It's going to be a run-first team, which I'm more than good with, right? And there's a lot of good that came out of that, which we'll get into without saying specific players. And even some of the depth in the receiving chart looked also very good too. They were getting open and they were getting some yak too. But I guess the way I wanted to try this first evaluation of a game that we did see, we're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because that's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I guess we'll start with the good. So this is a time in the segment where you basically can highlight one or two guys that you were just like, yeah, that was fucking good to see that from him. And then we'll get into the bad/ugly at the end. But Adnan, why don't you start though? Who do you want to highlight? Give two guys maybe on either side, right, that were good.
Yeah, I'll do one offense, one defense, like you said. Defense, we had mentioned him. Bernard Converse looked great. He looked like a guy that really can provide depth in that secondary, especially playing against the starters. That one long completion that you alluded to, it was
Perfect
great
coverage.
Yeah, just an excellent throw by an excellent young quarterback and a great catch. So he really did a lot. And I think that is, that's commendable. And I think he's shown something, that this team can use moving forward and build upon. So I thought that was great. The second guy we mentioned a little bit is Brandon Smith, the wide receiver. He came from the UFL as well. He played a really good game, had a couple of big catches. He's a big receiver. So somebody that's definitely worth developing, someone that, probably won't make the roster, but if he can be on the practice squad and kind of develop from there, who knows what this receiver room is going to look like next year. And having a big-bodied physical receiver who does have some athleticism, will really help just kind of in that receiver pipeline. So I think those two guys really stood out for me.
Go ahead, Monty.
Cool.
Oh, I just want to say real quick on Bernard. He had 6 targets, only that one catch, which was in super tight coverage.
Nice. Yeah. So I would say on the good side, let's go with Olu. Just because, he was solid, the whole time. He just looked like a wall. He didn't let up any sacks, and really, I don't think he let up pressures or anything like that. The one thing, though, is he had a false start penalty, which we really need to nip in the bud. I know it's not the end of the world. It's only one, but that was a problem for us last year. And I really want to make sure that that's not a problem that carries over into this year, because that killed us. We were first in the NFL in false starts last year. So I don't want new people picking up old bad habits. But other than that, really, really big fan of what I was seeing. He looks solid. He looks like someone who can start for us, and who can fill in once Tyron Smith or Morgan Moses misses any time.
It's interesting because they're trying him out on the right side. He actually might be the better blocker than Morgan Moses right now today.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Practice, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. But good versatility. Who else?
All right, so then now on the bad side,
no. Who else in the good?
Oh, we're still doing good. All right, still doing good. All right. I would still say. I kind of leaned into it before, but Braylon Allen. But honestly, really for the good, I would just say the entire running room, because Izzy scored. Isaiah Davis looked great. Braylon Allen looked like an absolute monster. So I think this running back room in general is just something that's a bright spot, something that's really good, something I'm looking forward to, for this next year. But yeah,
I will say it's about Braylon Allen, right? First off, average yards after contact 3.5, right? Mm-hmm. But it looked like every fucking time he got touched, he always ended up getting at least a yard or two.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I could very well see a situation where like Brees's touchdowns definitely go down because at the goal line, there's nothing fucking stopping Braylon Allen. You know what I mean? Like I think realistically, and I'm not stealing your good or anything like that, this one, but like this guy could literally take Brees, maybe was in line to get like 300 carries before the draft. Like I could very well see that going down to 200 and Braylon Allen getting like 100 carries this year. I very well could see that. Like I think he's that good. I think he's that. He's a Derrick Henry type, and he can pass block really well.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. All right. So now I'm gonna get into my good. I'm gonna stick with the big boys up front. I'm gonna give Xavier Newman a shutout at guard. Tippmann too deserved it a little bit too, but he didn't really play that much. But Newman had a lot. He had like 11 run blocks, 14 pass blocks. He actually was the highest graded blocker in the room, but allowed one little pressure. But he was manhandling people on that line, right? And like the one thing on this offensive line, tackle, I think we felt pretty comfortable with the depth there, considering all the teams in the league. Like to have Fashanu, a first rounder, be on your depth as well as Max Mitchell and Carter Warren, right? Like you're pretty set on tackle depth, and maybe there was a little bit of concern in the interior, right? I think I feel pretty good with him back in that depth chart. I feel pretty good, especially after that game. And that's very encouraging, especially with fucking ABT always, seemingly not Mr. Glass last couple of years, right? Even though they've been fluky. We're not playing at Denver this year, so don't worry. It's in New York game. But I mean, that was encouraging for me on that one, right? Just to see that, right? And then I guess, yeah, I mean, you kind of stole with all the running backs, right? I'll give Izzy a shout out. Fuck it. That guy kind of needed. But you know what? Malachi Corley, first touch he got, he really tried to do too much with the yak and didn't get it, right? And like he literally got stopped by trying to go all the way around and all that. But then like next time he touched it, like he actually he broke for a first down. You know what I mean? Like I think that was his second catch. How many catches did he have? Did he have two or he had 4 receptions, right? I mean it was for 27 yards, but like there were some hard fought yards there from him, and I think he can be very useful. He will push Gibson for that spot in the slot, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
It was encouraging for him. All right. So now we're going to go into the bad and the ugh. Monty, why don't you do that?
All right, I'll jump in first. My bad and or ugly, mostly just bad, but not because Will McDonald, no tackles, no pressures, and he had a roughing the passer penalty. Just not a good day for him. Now, I'm sure if you look at his PFF grade for the game, it's probably really decent. High. He was able to play his role, but there was no production that came out of it, and he had a penalty. So listen, I'm all for, this is where kind of I'll disagree with PFF sometimes. You can play your role and do what you need to do, but production matters. You've got to get the stats, especially if you're a guy that's a first rounder that's coming in to potentially have to do Haason Reddick's job or do Bryce Huff's job. We need more, and it's got to be consistent, and it's got to come consistently, and you got to produce. You got to have the numbers too. It can't just be you're really good at just playing defense and keeping the guy where he should be, and containing. Yes, I understand contain is a job of the DN, but rushing the passer is a job of the DN too, and creating pressure, tackles, sacks, that's got to be what you're doing, and it just didn't happen that game. Might just be an off game. Hopefully he picks it up next time, but for sure that's that definitely stood out to me. It's just the lack of production in that game.
Part of me thinks that he kind of took it easy a little bit because he did have a good week of practice against the Commanders, right? And that guy is kind of pivotal if you're going to need him because you have no Haason Reddick, right? And also that's a bullshit roughing the passer. I mean, he was basically right fucking there, dude, at the time Hartman threw the ball. You know what I mean? That's a regular season game. That's not passing as roughing the passer. I mean, sorry,
I mean, it's the Jets, so
it's the Jets.
We get some bullshit calls from and yes, I know it could be considered a questionable call, but still, it is what it is. He still only came away from the game with a penalty.
Okay, sucks. Fair enough. What do you got, Adnan?
Yeah, I know he didn't have a bad game. He scored a touchdown, but man, Izzy is. He's got a rough road ahead, I feel like. Isaiah Davis was good. Braylon Allen was incredible. We all know about Breece Hall. I highly doubt they're keeping 4 running backs, and I just think, again, good performance, but taking this in a little bit of a different direction, just a bad situation for Izzy. And I think that, that's one of those positions where he might just end up being phased out. Hopefully they can keep him on the practice squad because I don't think he's making the 53. His upside is tantalizing to the point where someone might take him, just like, with Bam Knight. We thought that would be someone they could sneak onto the practice squad, weren't able to do it. So I think that's kind of my bad, not in the sense, again, of a performance, but more so just, the guy being the odd man out. That's pretty tough.
Yeah. I'm going to throw Tanzel Smart in there as my bad. And the reason for it is because we got to kind of fall in love with the dude a little bit last year in Hard Knocks. And I think he got the start this time around in this game, right? And it's not so much because I thought he was okay. His tackling was good. He did, clean up a couple runs and all that, but the pass rushing wasn't there, right? But relative to the rest of the interior guys and the edge guys and on that line, right? I mean, Clemens was just okay. I mean, like he had like 60 grades across the board, which is just average, right? McDonald, I think that's skewed too. Monty, I agree with you on that one. But Zach McKinley, who probably should have been in my good, was very effective in limited reps. The other interior guys, outshined Tanzel a little bit, in my opinion. Bruce Hector and was it Holmes? Yeah, it was Holmes. But so like, I'm just like. I want the guy to make the team. You know what I mean? Because like the charcuterie board, and all that, whatever he called it. Right?
Charcuterie board, he said.
Yeah, charcuterie board. Yeah, I want him to make the team because that guy, you feel that for the underdog, the grinder, and all that. He's been grinding. And I hope he makes the team, but he just may not because, like, we talk about the luxury or not luxury at edge, right? But it's still a fucking deep unit. You know what I mean? And like he could end up being a practice squad guy again, but who knows? I could be wrong on that. Someone can correct me if they are, but I just wanted to see a lot more, given that like of the guys that were like really getting a shot from that D interior, like he's kind of like the more seasoned guy, if that makes sense in terms of age, right?
Yeah. I hate to say it about him because I like him too, but I think his
too small.
I think his likability is just higher than his natural ability at playing football.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He just is what he is.
If we never saw him on Hard Knocks, we would be like,
Yeah, he just is what he is, and I don't think he's ever going to be much more than that. He'll be a borderline guy for the rest of his career, unless he goes to a real.
Yeah, prove us wrong, right?
Right,
yeah.
and which is fine, right? If he can catch on to the practice squad, play when absolutely necessary. I mean, that's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. He's doing a lot better than a lot
Those
of
guys
other
make good money too.
Yeah, so and I think it is disappointing. He has 2 more games. He'll probably play a lot on Saturday and then a lot in the last preseason game. So he has a couple of games to make up some ground, but definitely not the start that he was hoping for, I would bet.
Yeah. Greg the Leg has a great leg, doesn't he? I just will say that.
Dude, that first kick would have been good from 65. Like smashed that.
So standard. Yeah. I tell you, that dude's hung like a fucking moose. I swear to God, he's just fucking great. He's fucking great. Well, we had that. What was the joke with fucking Izzy, right? I don't know. They actually might keep 4 running backs if you really think about it, right? Well, actually, they're probably just going to rotate the shit out of their D linemen, right? And just if they're going to have the extra position, right? And there's no Haason Reddick, they're probably just going to have like crazy amount of fucking D linemen rotating, right? It's probably going to be like 8 or 9 guys at least, right? Yeah,
probably. And I would say they'll end up hopefully being able to stash Izzy on the practice squad, and if he needs to play, they can bring him up, right? So I mean, I think that's probably his fate to begin the season, because they will need those defensive linemen, and they'll probably take the same precaution on the offensive line as well. Make sure you have depth there also. So I think that's kind of what it's looking like.
Yeah, I mean, usually the way it goes for the offensive line, I mean, usually it's 8 or 9 guys also on the offensive line, and like the vast majority are going to be like really special teams offensive linemen, right? Because like you don't have Tyron Smith play on punt coverage, right? Or like kick our field goals, really. Well, I guess you do a little bit, right? But on the, you know what I mean? Like they're going to rotate out to protect them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So like I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. When do the first cuts happen? It's not this coming week. It's the one it's not this week.
I think it's after this preseason game, I believe, or the first cuts. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes, and we'll have a full-on discussion about that. I guess we'll go to the final thoughts, and that was good timing with the 49th minute, given that we're playing the Niners week 1. We'll go ahead.
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess I'll start it. So, I mean, just final thoughts would just be, I'm looking forward to this next game. I kind of want to see how we do against Bryce Young, because I'm sure he's going to play a little bit. I do wish in general that we had a little bit. I wish we had harder teams for preseason, Like I would have loved to like, have the Niners and the Dolphins and like all those teams, those types of teams for preseason, just because I want to see our guys get tested against a little bit tougher talent, and then have our season be a little bit more of like a ramp up sort of situation rather than getting smacked in the face with the 49ers right out the gate. Like, that isn't great. That isn't ideal, in my opinion, for a team that's still, piecing things together, but looks good. But yeah, other than that, I mean, doing good right now. Just need to keep the momentum. Definitely need to, have Aaron Rodgers continue to impact these younger guys. I think we're seeing it already, like with guys that are actually somewhat, talented and can listen and can, acclimate what he's saying and like, pick up what he's putting down. I mean, we're seeing it already. Like Adrian Martinez is like, hey, this is what Aaron Rodgers told me. He goes out on the field. He does it. It works. Like, that's the kind of shit I want to see. And like, I want to see more and more and more of that. I thought also it was interesting that that Tippmann played as much as he did, but Saleh did go and say that he still had some kinks he had to work out. And he also said he wanted him to mirror Tyrod's snap count, which is interesting. So, I'm sure he'll get comfortable. I'm not worried about him. He kind of got thrown into the fire last year, and he probably does have some rough around the edges things that need to be ironed out. So that's good. And he had like, I think 3 or 4, 5 max shotgun snaps, and they all look good. So, I think we can put the snap. I think we can put the snap boogeyman to rest on that, because people were starting to get a little crazy with that shit. Like, it's like, all right, he was there all year last year. He didn't just forget how to snap a fucking football. Chill. So yeah. Let's see what else.
That's it. Thank you very much.
I can't talk enough about Braylon Allen, man. I just need to bring him up one last time, bro, because like that's like in my thoughts heavily right now, because like, this is going to be a run first offense. It's going to run through Breece Hall, but it's really comforting now that we have that actual, that actual RB2. It looks like that that can really fill that role, and I'm just really excited for that. Now I'm done.
Yeah,
Shut up, John.
I'm gonna focus my final thoughts on the summer of Allen Lazard. Like, this guy has been lighting it up in camp. He's been what, we thought would happen last season. Great chemistry with Rodgers. And if this guy can be, anything at all, let alone a good player, this offense just got deeper and better. And, I will gladly, happily, and hopefully be completely wrong on Lazard, because, I mean, showing what he's showing now, it really will be a big boon for this offense. So I'm really happy to see that he's having a big camp, that he's not playing in preseason games, and he's showing a lot. So he keeps this up. That just makes this offense better and better. And you'll actually have some depth at receiver for any inevitable injuries that you're going to face. So great job out of Lazard, and just want to see that continue the rest of the preseason.
Yeah. I mean, I kept saying, how long have I been saying throughout this whole offseason, if you could find the bet, take the over on that guy's yards, right? It's gonna happen. He's gonna redeem himself a little bit, right? And yeah, you're right on that one. That's gonna be a nice win, especially with Mike Williams is already practicing, right? Which is like this offense is gonna fucking take off. I might put some bets on Aaron Rodgers winning MVP. He's definitely gonna win Comeback Player of the Year.
Wow.
I love it. Comeback, yeah.
Comeback for sure.
I
would put a bet on that. Yeah, I would definitely put a bet on that.
You wouldn't put MVP though? His odds are going to be good.
MVP is a stretch, though, man. I know he's great, and I know we have a great team, but
well, the other thing
he's done it 4 times before. Why couldn't he do it a 5th time?
But now the media hates him, right? And that's going to play a big role in the voting. So
He's 40 plus. Also, the team's going to be running a lot more. He's not going to be, possibly passing like he has been in the past. There's a few things there.
Yeah, but he has a lot of opportunity for signature games. You know what I mean? Like nationally televised games, and all that. I'm just saying, like, anyway.
Yeah, but if Brees has Brees has like a Tyreek like type season this year, which I think he very well could have, or a Christian McCaffrey type season.
Agent Zero, man's gonna eat on a lot of that, dude. Agent Zero's gonna eat a lot of that. I'm telling you.
We'll see.
Hey, listen, I'd love to see it, right? I'd love to see it.
It seems it looks very well poised. Adnan's actually going to the game this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Because he lives in that area. So, Adnan, you want to shout out to the crowd what section and all that you're in so people can say hey if they even bother with our show?
I haven't bought tickets yet. They're like $5. I'm going to buy them like tomorrow or something.
Oh, okay. $5?
Yeah, they're like $5.
Dude, I couldn't go to the Commanders game, and I was fucking trying to sell them for $5 a piece, and I couldn't get them sold.
Wow.
Yeah, these tickets are.
I ended up being out of that. So.
Yeah, someone bought my parking pass, though. That's always the moneymaker. If you're going to buy season tickets, first off, like, comment, subscribe. Don't be an asshole. Yeah. But like, look, just keep getting excited. Just, knock on wood that things keep going smoothly. Whatever happens with Reddick will happen. Don't get too hung up about it. If that ruins your fucking August, then you've got more problems. You've got some serious fucking problems. If you're just like, if your life is just miserable because Haason Reddick hasn't shown up and we trade a conditional second round pick 2 drafts from now, like you got some serious fucking problems. Yeah. Like, just chill the fuck out, let it happen, get really excited. Just hope everything keeps going smoothly in this camp and all the progress that we've been talking about continues to happen. And as always, just remember to tell yourself at night before you go to sleep, because I sure do, fuck the Patriots, fuck the Dolphins, fuck the Bills. Go Jets. Thank you.
Go Jets.
Thanks, guys.